Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you are making the best out of the final stretch of yet another week, where many of us have been stuck in the house, trying to reinvent our businesses and plan for what comes next and the outcomes that are hopefully valuable to the companies that we run. This afternoon, we're joined by a franchisor and a franchisee. This is going to give a new perspective into support, into structure, into future. And this is going to be some of the pivoting that we're doing as we continue to evolve our conversations to be able to show you both sides of what is going on within an organization. So I'm super excited about our conversation. Aaron and Bryan, welcome to Bryan, I want to start with you. I would love for you to, one, obviously frame the business so that anybody that's watching this understands what it is. And then secondly, just where's your head at around things when it comes to business, franchise, and personal? How are you surviving this and preparing for the next step?
Yeah, we're a byproduct of 2008. That's when I started the company. And out of that, we're a flooring company. So we install people's floors. We go into houses all the time. And it's residential remodels. We're just in regular people's houses. They, putting in hardwood floors, tile, laminate, LVP. That's who we are and what we do. So you'd think that we would be hurt, but we've actually done pretty well. And I alluded to it before. We're a byproduct of 2008. So when we started this company, we purposely didn't get into any overhead. We don't have any brick and mortar. Our entire 40-person W-2 staff works from their houses already. That was just standard for our business. So we haven't had to really figure out how to make all that work. We were already doing it. And then all of our franchisees follow suit. They all work from their houses. We don't have warehouse space. When we purchase flooring, we have it drop shipped directly to the house. There's no inventory in between it all, which means our overhead's very, very low at the corporate level, and then again for franchisees. So we've done pretty well. We're still going. We're definitely down in overall revenue, but not nearly as much. And because we don't have any overhead, our overhead shrinks at the same rate as any kind of income does. So we're doing pretty well.
And Aaron, I would love to see you. What are things like in your world, and as a franchisee, how are you navigating things right now?
Yeah, and thanks for having us on the broadcast. Like Bryan said, we're adapting. We're still pushing ahead. Business as usual. We've definitely seen a reduction with our lead counts, and we have had several customers who have wanted to postpone projects, but as long as they're still comfortable having us in their home to either perform work and build floors or do estimates, we are willing and able. We're following all the CDC guidelines for safety, with social distancing and wearing, the little bit of PPE that we have, and hand sanitizing a lot. But it's still business as usual. This morning I got up, I went out and checked on a job that was finishing up today. Picked up final payment on that, asked the customer for a 5-star review, caught up with my crew, and then after that I went on and did an estimate. So it's really just business as usual. We're just adapting to a new climate. Bryan actually rolled out something a few weeks ago called virtual estimating. So we're able to still perform estimates for people who may not be comfortable having us physically in their homes, but we're still able to make the connection with them over FaceTime or Zoom or Skype, kind of assist and guide them through how to take basic measurements. We can get a visual on there with them with a preliminary number. So we're able to keep the pipeline going and keep filling the pipeline with
Hey, Aaron, I'm not sure if, I don't know if you're hitting a mic or something, but sometimes you're going in and out on your audio. Bryan, it's interesting because like all these brand attributes are pretty amazing, right? Low overhead, staff working from home, drop shipping. And I find it interesting how, the first thing you mentioned is that you're a byproduct of 2008. I'm curious, could you share what some of your experiences were in '08? How they, and I guess the result of it was that low overhead model, which is genius. And I guess how you could correlate '08 to now and maybe tie it all together for us.
Yeah. The lessons learned in '08 is I was working for another flooring company at the time, and they essentially went out of business. They had a lot of overhead, there were tons of payroll, and as things started to go south, they didn't adapt very quickly, and they ended up essentially going out of business. They owed the IRS like $1 million or something crazy, and they ended up letting all of the staff go, including myself. And so I was sitting there in December of '08 trying to figure out what to do in life. I was 24 years old and just got let go in the middle of a recession and facing the prospect of starting a construction company in a recession in the winter, with no money. They hadn't been paying their staff for like 6 months. So I had 6 months of back pay still owed to me. And I just sat there going, there's a smarter way to do this. I still want to do it. I love the industry. I think that customers need companies with integrity as their primary focus, and that doesn't exist too often in the construction industry. So I saw the need. It was just a matter of how do we get there. So from day one, it was, let's keep these things simple. One of our main tenets is let's not get into any overhead expenses that can't easily be kind of backed out of, or we're really attracted to expenses that tie directly to a cost of goods sold. So that would be crews, paying subcontractors piece rate instead of salaries or even hourly. We're not hooked into any kind of staffing on the crew side. So if we're not doing work, we're not paying anybody. We're buying material. We're not storing it in inventory, buying thousands of feet that we might not ever need. We're buying them per job. So everything is scalable up and everything's scalable down. And that was the main tenet coming into 2009. That's what we want to do and who we were. And that's just continued. And it's allowed us to scale quickly as things were good. And it's going to allow us to shrink accordingly when things are not so good. I think recession, if we do move into an official recession now, or at least a depressed economy, the companies that got fat with overhead and expenses that they can't quickly back out of are the ones that are going to suffer the most. And companies that can stay nimble, like Footprints Floors, who can scale up and down in expenses according to the incoming money revenue, then we're going to be the ones we're not losing money right now to the point where when things kick back on in a month, 2 months, 3 months, whatever it ends up being, we're ready to go. We're standing at the starting light waiting for that gun to go off, and we're going to be off and running on day one. Whereas I think some of our bigger maybe box store competitors are going to have to scale into things. They're going to have to rehire staff that they let go of. We haven't let go of anybody. We have our entire staff still in place. Our crews are ready to go and waiting. All of our marketing is ready to launch. We're just keyed up and waiting. So I think we're in an excellent position, and it's been 11, 12 years in the making. This is not, oh crap, what are we going to do today? This is how we've been for 12 years.
You mean you didn't just luck out during this crisis? I mean,
I kind of stumbled into it, but it worked out.
No, I mean, that's the thing. What I love is that, it's forged in fire, right? And the candor of, hey, I was laid off and there was a better way. I don't know if there's a better story. And, and I'm sure, one thing I not to get into now, but I'd be curious later as we wrap up is, hey, along the way, did any really smart people tell you, you need to be establishing a retail space and stuff like that. But, so there's no accidents here. I think that's a great story.
Yeah. No, I've heard it for years. Why don't we have a box location? And it seems like the older generation is really attracted to going to a physical location. And I've always pushed against it. I'm like, and really it's just a logic train. It's, if I'm going to spend $10,000 a month on a location and I got to staff it and I got to utilities, I got to get a forklift then, and all of the headaches that come along with that, can I not use that $10,000 or $15,000 a month to get more marketing, to buy more leads, to garner more business that leads to more money, spend money to make more money? How much is that location going to actually make me, and make our franchisees? And the answer is not nearly as much as $15,000 of marketing is going to accomplish. So that's the logic check, and it's kind of cut off that line of thinking pretty quick each time.
I think the other amazing part of this story, Bryan, is that, I mean, even brands that we have on, and this is not an insult to them, but they talk back to the time where they were bootstrapping their growth, and they use that as a part of their story. They're like, when we were starting this, we bootstrapped, and for whatever reason, costs skyrocket, and the pure fact that you still have the mindset of try to operate with no overhead expenses, so that it all wavers based on the conditions of what is going on, is very rare, because a lot of businesses get caught up in all the bells and whistles that you can put in place. Like, is that just your mentality, that you want something that is prepared for a rainy day no matter what?
I would more say that's more of a byproduct of more of an overall personality trait or goal in life. And it's, as soon as I start feeling like I'm making a decision based on it's going to make me look cool, prestige, pride, power, and is it worth it? Is that why I'm making the decision? And if the answer is yes, then let's not do it. If it doesn't lead to more money, if it doesn't make my employees' lives better, my family's life better, then let's not do it. There's no reason to get into an expensive office space or to get big fancy trucks for everybody. Like, what's that lead to? So then in turn, we've stayed nimble because of that mentality as well. But so I guess they go hand in hand. But I wouldn't say that's our core thinking as we're making the decisions, not to get hooked into big expensive things. We don't need it. Let's be good stewards of this money.
And does hearing that story, Aaron, when you were going through the process of becoming a franchisee and understanding just the integrity and foundational elements of the franchisor, does that help you feel comfortable with your decision to buy in?
Oh, it absolutely does. And it did at the time of entry, and it does now, because I know that, Bryan is gonna steer the ship and lead us in ways that will keep all of our businesses healthy and maintain a really healthy corporate, culture as well. So.
What's great is to see, and we've kind of speak briefly, right? And I was joking around 1 to 10, how happy are you? And right. So talk about the clarity, having franchisor and franchisee, and you guys mesh so well. And I would challenge, and this is for you, Aaron. I don't know if I were buying a franchise and I hear Bryan's story, I'm like, let me sign up, right? Aaron, could you go back in time? Not in complete detail, but what was that journey like? What was that intangible that shifted you to, hey, this is the right brand for me? And then if you could dovetail now in a moment of crisis, and today as we're all speaking, how were your assumptions or your gut reaction? How was it validated?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, so it was just, evident to me that Bryan had built this incredible, machine of a company that was extremely, it was simple, it was nimble, it was very intuitive, It was very streamlined, and he had all of the data, the historical, data, sales and margins and growth, all put on paper, so I could go back and see, just the history of the company's performance and growth. So that was really simple, and gave me great clarity. It's also just overall, I mean, it's a very simple business when you think about it, the service that we provide. And I really, that was very attractive to me. And it's very, what we do is very sales centric. I mean, we're ultimately, selling ourselves to our potential customers, our homeowners. And that's my background is sales. I also, love the fact that we are, we're playing a part in a transformation in someone's home. So I love seeing the whole, evolution and being a part of the evolution from the initial, meeting with the customer to actually, delivering a great floor and great experience for them, and celebrating, in that experience that they get to have.
Bryan, when you hit this COVID crap, is the way that I'll frame it from now on. COVID crap. When this starts happening and shutdowns are starting to occur in the beginning of March, because of what you went through in 2008, does it eliminate fear in here? And I know it's different because this is health, financial, panic, political, but is your fear gone? Do you automatically get to skip the panic button and go towards the let's accelerate, or here's how we navigate it?
Have you been reading all of my communications to our franchisees?
Yeah.
That's exactly it. I look back at 2008 and what I went through. I went 3 months without a project, and then I went for the next year and a half doing all the floors myself. I was the sander. I was the installer. My wife was answering the phones. We had 3 little kids, 4 dogs, 4 cats, 800 square foot house. Like, we lived in utter chaos, and we did it. And looking back 10 years from now, I don't know how I did it, and I don't know if I could do it again, but somehow I'm still here. So we made it. And that's the lesson I want to remind everybody as we're going through this. This is temporary. Have faith. This is going to be a few months. We've experienced this. The country's gone through worse, and we're going to come out the other side feeling good, and really control what you can control. Control your attitude, control your interactions with other people, and be ready. I've seen a great response out of the franchisees. I've seen a lot of people really relate to this concept of having faith and just being ready. And they see the confidence that we have at the corporate level, confidence that's a byproduct of things that we've already experienced and gone through, and they're emboldened and encouraged because of that. They know that we've been there, done that, and they're following suit, and they've been surprisingly successful. And the ones that have been courageous in all of this have done even better. Franchisees feel it from me, and then their customers and their crews in turn feel it from them. If they're feeling positive, encouraged, and like we're gonna do this, then crews and customers see it, and they're like, yeah, this guy's confident. I'm confident too. And it's contagious. And that's what I want to encourage my franchisees to have at the center of this is we're still a company about people. It's people caring about people, and that it doesn't change now with the landscape. In fact, it's even more important.
Hey, Bryan, so your model's validated, right? And it's not by accident, right? So this is a lifelong journey. As we come out of this, many brands were talking about restarting and really launching again. And Footprints Floors is at an advantage because you're still in operation. But from a franchise development standpoint, franchise sales, growing the brand, growing your network, have your thought processes changed? Are you focused on leveraging what you've learned in this? I mean, has anything changed on the other side of this in terms of what's your goals for 2021 and 2022?
If there's anything, I think we've learned a lot. This virtual estimating thing in and of itself has been pretty cool to see. I think we'll continue it even in normal times. People really like just the ease of doing things over the phone. But even bigger picture, though, beyond that, I think we've learned, at least I've learned, we're really planning on doubling down on who we are and what we're doing. I think franchisees or prospects can even better today than ever relate to who we are and why we're important and why our model, as lean as it is and as successful and profitable as it is a good thing to get into. I don't know. I'm excited. It's hard to be excited at times like this as the market's crashing, but I'm pretty hopeful for what's in front of us over the next year as we dig our way out of it. I think we're ready.
Aaron, whenever we've talked with franchisees and we start going through why would they even get to the point of buying a brand, to fall into similar buckets. They believe in the product, the consumer positioning. They believe in the leadership, that someone can navigate the ship no matter what. The cost to get in and the potential of how much you can make is sound. You can open in the market that you want to, and then the validation is there that franchisees are validating this. When you and obviously if there's anything else you would add into that bucket when you're making this decision, but when you reflect back on this, like the reality is, and we talked about this earlier today, that this is an opportunity to be the best when we're facing the worst. And the reality is all those are still true. And there are some brands like it's part of the conditions. A restaurant brand might be getting crushed right now. So that creates a stress point on the leadership who might not give support to the franchisees the way that they originally sold it because they're so stressed out, and it creates this whole tumbling effect. But it seems like things are intact here. Do you feel like, does this validate it in a different way that you couldn't even have understood or comprehended when you were going through the sales process of even becoming a franchisee?
I haven't been surprised at all at the way that, Bryan has responded to this crisis. I mean, he's very calm. He's very poised. He is very strong in his faith, and his convictions. So, I mean, we couldn't have a better person, at the helm right now, kind of guiding us, encouraging us, motivating us, and presenting ideas and solutions, and really helping us all kind of pivot and adapt to the crisis we're in, and really maximize the business that we do have at hand, and really continue to fill our pipelines and convert as much business as we can right now. So, none of this really comes as surprise, and it really does, the way Bryan has responded, really does, validate why I decided to, take on a career with Footprints.
Bryan, it was interesting what you said, because Nick and I, in a lot of these leadership conversations, we're talking about pivoting, right? And brands pivoting. And what's interesting is you've said things like, now's the time to double down on who we are, why we're important, right? Which gets back to integrity in the brand and the reason why, your overnight success is over a decade getting there, right? So in many ways, right, pivoting may mean not doing something different, but going deeper. And I know this is it's a general question, may not, and I'm not saying a long answer, but like in a sentence or two, if I ask you, who are you in terms of footprint, floors, and why are you important? Because you use those terms. I think they're some of the most important terms in the franchise industry, and probably two terms that 99.9% of the brands never answer. But yet you're front and center with this. So, I mean, if a sentence or two, about footprint floors, when you say we're doubling down on who we are and why we're important, how do you answer that?
Really, our core tenet as a company is people, and we push this idea on our franchisees and then on our corporate staff, and then at the end to our customers. We take care of each other. We put the interests of others ahead of our own. That's really what it is to be in a family. It's to care about somebody else's success over our own. And if you have that mentality, then, and it's not a karma thing. It's just who we're supposed to be. And that's what I mean by doubling down, and what I mean by continuing in that direction. What we've seen, and we all probably have our anecdotes as we've been living through this last month of fear and toilet paper shortages and just this insanity that's going on out there, and hearing stories of lonely people, and this fear of potential suicides and domestic abuse. I mean, people need people. People need people to care about them. They need people to care about in turn, and I think that's what I'm really getting at for doubling down. Like we're heading in the right direction. We have an amazing culture, company culture. We know each other. We're invested in lives. We know kids' names. We send birthday presents and cards, and we have hundreds and hundreds of people, and everybody knows each other, and it's amazing. So I've been really encouraged with the hope and love that I've seen, and that's what I want to double down on. And that was way more than 2 sentences. I'm sorry.
No,
my sentences are: we're a family about, or a company about family, and we're going to continue to focus on that, because that's ultimately what matters. It's our franchisees and their own families and being home. It's our employees having a good work life and enjoying going to work every day. And then it's taking care of customers in the end. And customers see it and they feel it, and they know we're different.
But those are big statements, Bryan. And I appreciate the response. And I appreciate it's not an easy answer, but it's a genuine answer. And I think because you try to pinpoint what's that special thing, right? But it's inherent on your entire team. I mean, for lack of a better word, it's culture, right? But people use culture so often, they don't truly understand what's behind that term. And we're seeing a lot of it. So I think that's, a company about family is pretty cool, right? And I think that's really good to understand. And ironically, that's sort of what Aaron was describing with his experience, right? So I think that's important for brands both today and later on.
And we've heard that response from franchisees now for years, is there's something different here. We've talked to other brands, and there's just something different, and we want to be a part of it.
Well, and far too often, Bryan, I mean, brands are having that discussion, and this is why I'm proud of this moment, because brands have that statement, but there's no franchisee right next to them. So they say it, and it ends up being an empty statement, because they're like, we're great, we have great values and support, and you're being validated in front of a franchisee who, there's no this is not right. It's yeah, this is why I bought into it. I think we've used a term this week that Brenda from Lightbridge Academy said is the time capsule, that capturing this moment. I mean, we're videotaping this for forever, hopefully, that people can see that there's legitimacy here. One thing that I wanted to ask when it comes to the consumer standpoint, I'm going to try putting myself in your shoes, and I would love for any comments on this. But if I think back to 2008, I mean, we're in a real estate crisis. So the products and services that you offer when you're first getting started, the reality is it's because probably we can't sell our home, so we're going to make it a little bit more beautiful. And at that point, some of the marketing mindset was, all right, find projects that you can enhance. So if you need to sell your home, there's a little bit more value. On this side, we've been forced into our personal vacation resorts. So I would imagine, like, yes, that's still going to be there. Like, let's increase the value of the home by fixing what our floors look like. But there's also, like, we're taking a new appreciation and probably new detail and looking around and saying, oh, crap, I better fix that. Like, I don't like that anymore now that I'm stuck here. So, like, it's almost like in 2008, you're just feverishly writing down all the things and options of what the homeowner might go through in a case. It seems like that could be, in a positive light for you guys, that could be happening in real time right now.
I think so. I think there's a lot of people sitting there staring at their floors that they haven't noticed in the last 5 years. Like, oh, we should probably do something about that. And we're hopeful. We're hoping they're doing that. But we're not picky. You know, as people are moving into new houses or moving out of old houses, or staying put in their current house, or doing tile. I mean, there's really anything that somebody wants to do, we're able to do it. We're not married to any particular products. We're not married to insurance companies and floods or anything. We're adaptable, and our franchisees are adaptable as well. So yeah, we're hopeful.
It's interesting. You know, like, there's serendipity that, like, yeah, people are probably very tired of their floors right now. I just love that. You know, this morning's conversation, the topic came up, like, don't blame coronavirus, right, on the other side of this. And probably what's happening now and afterwards were trends that were going to happen anyway. So it's interesting to see that if you have faith in what you're doing, you have sincerity in what you're doing. I'll use your term, Bryan. You know who you are and why you're important, and then you take care of people. This sounds like all, like, you know, metaphysical nonsense, but it's exactly what creates success. And I just love to see it in action. It's amazing.
Yeah,
It really is. Yeah.
I was just going to mention one thing about our culture, and I think that makes it really unique, and is there is a group chat that we use. It's called GroupMe, and it's a forum where that all of the owners and Bryan are on together, and there are, on any given day, there's anywhere from like 30 to 130 text messages that are exchanged. So there's pictures being shared, there's questions being asked and being answered. We're celebrating the success of somebody's, you know, big sale, or maybe their first sale. We're encouraging someone who's going, you know, having a hard day, or who's really struggling with, you know, the pandemic at hand. So it's just an incredible forum that really helps nurture and foster, and really give us an amazing, you know, healthy culture where people feel supported, where they feel encouraged, where they feel, you know, they can go to for quick answers. And it's just this incredible opportunity for all of us to feel, you know, unified and to feel supported and encouraged. So I think that's a huge part of our business right now, and I think it's playing a huge role in helping us all, you weather this storm together and support one another.
So it's so great to see this. I mean, this is what franchise is supposed to be, and I think there's going to be brands that are pushing the restart button on culture and saying, hey, as long as we have enough cash to get to the other side, then maybe there's things we need to be doing differently. There are brands that have been doing it right the whole time. That are the ones like the culture's already sound. But everybody should be looking at every aspect of their business, given what we're going through, because it should open up a lot of, there's a lot of realities going through brains. That mortality is a real thing. How stress and how we react in a stressful situation. So this is a good restart scenario, and I think the discussion that we've had today is extremely valuable for anybody that's watching this and saying, what do I need to try to get to on the side? How can I take Bryan's mentality of what he did in 2008 and now apply it to 2020 and what we're going through here? So as we make this final turn, I would love final thoughts or comments as we take ourselves out of this conversation. Bryan, do you want to go first? Final thoughts.
Plenty of the day. No, I thank you for this opportunity. I think this is a pretty cool thing you guys are doing. And if there's any franchisors or franchisees and other models that would love to talk, I don't want to just encourage my people selfishly. I'll encourage anybody. That's what life's all about. So I'm here to help in any way I can.
Great statement on community. I love it. Aaron, final thoughts?
I think we've, pretty much touched on everything. Just this is an incredible franchise to be a part of. Thank you guys for the opportunity to allow us to get on here today and kind of talk about our, this company and our experiences and how we're kind of approaching this whole pandemic. And it's we're just, we're hopeful, and we're just continuing to proceed, business as usual, and just be as positive as we can during this situation. And like Bryan said, I mean, we're right there at the starting blocks, and we're just waiting for the gun to go off. So we're just more than anything just excited, for business to go back to normal. But in the meantime, we're gonna pivot, we're gonna flex, and we're gonna do the best we can with what we have.
Love it. And Charles, final thoughts?
Yeah, I have to say, gentlemen, this conversation speaks volumes about both of you, Bryan and Aaron. I mean, really speaks volumes. And the biggest takeaway for me is the integrity, the culture, and Bryan, my final thoughts are, where you're at is no mistake. And quite frankly, I think Footprints Floors is going to have a very big surge ahead. And trying to figure out what are those magic elements to culture. It's about being genuine, because you can't fake that. It's about really knowing, as Bryan said, who you are and why you're important. And if you don't have that, and Nick, you phrased it well, because everyone's mindset's different. On the other side, people are thinking about mortality and life and purpose, and we don't have time for BS. So for the brands that don't have that culture, no matter how good things seem or not, they're not going to stay intact, or at least they're going to underperform. So, but Bryan and Aaron, thank you so much on my end.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
And my final thoughts are this: that for whatever reason, one, I need a conversation like this. This helps me get to restart, so I appreciate that. And then two, unfortunately, there are many franchisors that if they had to write the order, they would put franchisor and then franchisee. That we're in charge, it's our way, we're the magic behind it. And if you're not listening to this conversation, if you're in that bucket and you're not listening to the conversation saying, we better flip that around, like franchisees make great franchisors, period. And if you're not careful about who comes into your system and who aligns from an integrity standpoint, and who's walking in there and saying, hey, we want to have a group chat, not to create an association on why we hate the franchisor, which is where it happens in areas. It is literally because we are a family. Like if you're a franchisor and you're not listening to this and saying it's time to reverse that story, best of luck. You're not going to be in business far past this, because great franchisees make great brands, and this is an example of it. And I'm proud to have had this conversation with you guys, because I get disenchanted sometimes when I see the nastiness of the industry that we happen to be in, and it's rewarding to be able to be reminded that there are good people out there. So I appreciate it. I appreciate the conversation. And I'm sure our audience got great value out of this. So I wish you both the best of luck as you continue to navigate this. And I'll certainly be rooting for success on the other side. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Take care,
Thanks, gentlemen.